Evosys Glide. And Evosys Glide is a methodology to support the Evosys customer community, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a few moments, in their transition from on-premise to cloud solutions. And we're talking about pretty much the full spectrum in terms of the Oracle world with ERP, EPM and HCM, and also talking about not only the Oracle e-business suite, but also the PeopleSoft and also JDE communities. And indeed, outside of the Oracle world, we've also used Glide transformation capabilities to support customers moving from SAP to the Oracle Cloud as well. So that handsome chap in front of you now is myself. You'll see there that my email address is at the bottom of the slide, so feel free to contact me afterwards. I know the content you'll be seeing here today is going to be shared with you. The agenda I'm going to take you through is just a very brief introduction of Evosys, then very quickly moving you on to understanding a little bit about our customers and why there's such a large movement from the on-premise world to SaaS. Then move into the customers themselves with reference to their advocacy. Before we talk about Evosys Glide in a little bit more detail, but then rapidly moving back to the customer, both hopefully to hear if I can get the technology to work, and also for me to show you through elements of a customer presentation, which is very recent since I had the pleasure of accompanying this customer as a speaker at Oracle Open World over the last week or so. So let me tell you about Evosys. So the company was formed in 2006, and we are a totally dedicated Oracle applications and technology partner. So all we do is Oracle, and everything we do is Oracle, and we have a very strong focus on the SaaS, the IaaS, and the PaaS world, and delivering service to our customers based upon those innovative technologies. So if I could take you through the screen again from left to right. If we start to talk about customers, we are really proud and pleased to say that we have over 900 Oracle Cloud customers running, as I said, all across the ERP, HCM, EPM, and indeed CRM portfolio. And equally, I'm conscious that whilst I'm talking to you here from a very grey and cloudy London, hopefully you're in a sunny location in APAC. And we have more than 60 customers in the APAC region as well. In terms of our operations, we operate globally, so we're in all regions of the world, and we have more than 50 countries that we're actively supporting our clients within. And then within the APAC community, again, we're supporting clients in more than 10 countries across APAC. One of the key significances that we're seeing in an increasingly globalized world is that many of our customers, whilst they may be headquartered in APAC or Europe, are actually global operations. And one of the key elements they look towards Evosys for is to support them in that environment. So we can deploy both through a global template, but then deploy locally within individual subsidiaries of global organizations. And that's something that's becoming increasingly prevalent. How do we do that? Well, we do that through having over 1,000 Oracle Cloud consultants. And we operate a model which is designed to take advantage of a center of excellence and also local deployment. And we really flex that around what are the specific needs of the customer. So if we're in a very strong security-controlled public sector realm, almost 100% of the delivery would be carried out on-site with the customer. If we're in a more flexible, perhaps commercial world, then we can take even more benefit out of our center of excellence approach, make it more cost-effective where security for the customer at the customer site isn't quite so prevalent in their mind. As I've mentioned to you already, we operate across the full Oracle portfolio in the cloud, both from an applications point of view, but also most relevant back from what Paul was talking about earlier, also within the PaaS and the IaaS community, so platform and infrastructures as a service, and obviously supporting autonomous database technologies within those environments as well. In terms of the specific topic for this conversation, so transformation from on-premise to the cloud, we've done this migration more than 60 times now. So we have already taken clients from eBusiness Suite, which I would say is the majority of that 60, but also from PeopleSoft, and also working with JD Edwards as well. And within the APAC community, we have 4 clients who have either already gone through that full transformation or are now going through that transformation as we speak. And that gives us an almost unprecedented degree of experience, and that is what's contributed to something we call Glide, which I'll go through with you in a little bit more detail later. I think, Paul, we made reference back to Oracle Open World, and I'm really proud to be able to present to you that at Open World we were presented with 3 awards, all really centered around our customer-centric approach, 2 of which were centered around customer satisfaction. One, I'm delighted to say, was within the APAC region. The other, coincidentally, the region from which I'm presenting today, in EMEA. And also we received the Customer Advocacy Award within the EMEA as well for Cloud Excellence. And it's something we're proud of since they're really centered around delivering customer value. So we transition now to talk about why our customers moving from on-premise to cloud, and it goes back to some of the messages that Paul delivered earlier, which I was pleased to note down. It's certainly the financial impact is one of the key reasons people are moving to the cloud. They're finding that it's much more cost-effective. And that can be cost-effective both from a CapEx initial investment point of view, but also from an operating expenditure point of view. And typically we're seeing reductions between 30 or 40% as a minimum, and we have seen reductions of in excess of 80 or 90% in terms of current operating costs. Another key element, and again this came up in the discussions earlier, is all about speed. People are actually able to move to the cloud and then take benefit of the applications in the cloud at a much greater velocity than would have been the case in the on-premise world. I have to say that indeed also puts some pressures in terms of the approach to the implementation, and I'll refer back to those when I talk about a particular case study. What we're finding is it also enables organizations to really focus on their core business. It's more and more using technology as a commodity and allowing people within an organization to feel confident in that environment and therefore to dedicate the maximum number of resources that they have to adding business value rather than worrying about the underlying technology that supports that. Again, Paul mentioned to this, security comes up high in terms of some of the reasons why people are moving into the cloud. I think there's an increasing concern around data breaches, etc., and people's ability to be able to maintain secure environments themselves. And therefore, the levels of security provided by security experts like Oracle provisioning their solutions in the cloud gives people more confidence in terms of their business solutions. And then finally, again, here, establishing a platform for the latest technologies. We made reference earlier to IoT, artificial intelligence, blockchain, etc. We're finding, again, the speed at which you can deploy mobile technologies, collaborative technologies within the cloud means that people very quickly transition to working out, okay, so how can I use other technologies in a very innovative way to drive my business forward? And that happens very, very quickly. So I spoke about customer advocacy. Here we have on the right a reference to a number of the logos. All of these customers have gone through the Evosys Glide program, and they've all transitioned from an on-premise world. All of these are in fact in the Oracle on-premise world and transitioned into the Oracle Cloud SaaS world. If we look at the top area, with EEI Construction, Yoma, KU Children's, and Salvation Army. The 4 referenced there are all from the APAC region. And we'll have a little bit of a closer look at KU Children's Services at the moment. There's lots of discussions around the cloud. You know, is it just a migration? Is it a transformation? Well, my answer to that is it can be both, or it can be either or. And I've got 3 examples here, all of which there are videos available online via YouTube that you can review at your leisure, where we start from perhaps a simple ERP customer with KU Children's Services, actually moving their business from on-premise to the cloud in only 12 weeks. That clearly was a fairly simple approach with the minimum amount of change, so the minimum amount of what I guess we would describe as transformation. but also adding very rapid benefits, and we'll hear, hopefully, them talk a little bit why they wanted to move so quickly. Second environment is much more complex. So this one is in the public sector in the UK, and the client that you can see visually here was the speaker that accompanied me to Oracle Open World over the last couple of weeks. And I'll be using Hammond's slides in a little while. I'm going to give you a little bit more detail about London Borough of Lambeth. But here we're in a much more complex environment, both in terms of the breadth of their solutions. So it's ERP, it's EPM, HCM, and this was also payroll. And it was the first time the payroll had been deployed in a UK public sector environment. And in the London Borough of Lambeth, you're also talking about, if you like, politically with a small p, a very complex organisation in terms of its decision management and also the degree and number and complexity of the employees and the structures that they work in within their organisation. And the final example we have here, which I'm not going to go into any detail today, but I'll invite you to reference later if you're in this type of environment, is the added complexity of having a shared service set up, where you may have either internal customers or external customers, and you have to accommodate them in terms of your approach to a system rollout within a cloud context. And that adds a different dynamic in terms of complexity that needs to be managed. So the key message from this slide is whether you're looking for what we might describe as a migration rather than transformation, whether you're in a highly complex, perhaps both from an organizational point of view and also perhaps from the breadth of the solution that you have, or whether you're in a complex organization because you have commercial arrangements with third parties, transitioning through to the cloud with Glide is all fully proven. So I've spoken and referenced Glide a couple of times now. Let me just talk to you a little bit about what it's about, and I'll accelerate through this as you have access to the slides afterwards. But it's these key 5 stages that you see on the screen here. And stages 1 and 2, so assessment of configuration and customizations, insights to build, perhaps unexpected ROI from the transition, can typically either come pre-sale or post-sale. And when we look at the insight, which is about developing business value, it can also flow through to the delivery process itself and the ultimate contract. So we're increasingly now working with customers to identify what business value they should expect to achieve, and then sharing with them that within the commercial constraints to make sure that we as partners, that's the customer and ourselves and Oracle, deliver that business value and reflect that into the commercial terms that we put in a contract. So let's start with assessment and configuration and customizations. One of the big differences between typical on-premise applications and cloud applications is the degree of customization that has taken place within the on-premise world. Those customizations clearly have a cost in terms of maintenance around the complexity of the solution, and it's very important, therefore, that we are able to analyze those customizations and configurations to identify up front to the customer how that will sit within the SaaS world. And the whole objective within the SaaS world is to move towards best practice, modern best practice, and therefore to reduce those customizations and individual configurations to a point where we still are able to deliver the business outcomes that an organization demands. So it's not about reducing capability, it's about taking out complexity and taking best advantage of modern best practice without putting the business itself at any type of risk or putting them in disadvantages. And the tools that we have here are both assessment, so they're both consultancy type skills, but equally they're all about automation as well. So the next stage is really about how do we drive a project forward in terms of from a business perspective. And that's about establishing business value to support an investment case from the business itself and the subsequent support of the business to drive the resulting implementation through the organization, because everybody's clear about why are we doing this and what value we're looking to deliver as a result of it. And it could be a financial saving, or it could be an improvement in service, or most likely it's going to be a combination of the two. So within Evosys, we have a team that's specialized at providing this type of service by engaging with you as the customer and then evaluating your business and then ultimately exhibiting and agreeing with you the return on investment that we would expect through going through a glide process and going through the transformation from the on-premise world to the cloud. And as I said before, this type of service can be provided either prior to contract or as part of the formation of a contract in order that the contract itself reflects the business value that you're looking to achieve. Next, again, this is really reference to a point again. Are we talking about a migration? Are we talking about a transformation? And it may be that we do two stages. It may be that we do a migration first because the business may be stable in terms of its organizational structures, the way it ultimately wants to use perhaps its ERP, but it wants to move to the cloud very quickly. This was the case with KU Children's, which we'll look at in a few moments. Therefore, they didn't want to change their chart of accounts. Their work structures were all there in place already, so they didn't need to go through that degree of business consultancy. In the case of Lambeth, however, they'd had significant organizational change. They were working in a shared environment before. They now could take control of that themselves. They were introducing full HR as part of the process, and they wanted to roll out full analytics, go fully mobile, and look at cutting-edge technology as well. Therefore, the enhancement services that we as an organization provided as part of the BigWide Program were very important and occupied a lot of the focus for our relationship with London Borough of Lambeth. Then we've spoken about the adoption of modern best practice. Key to moving from the on-premise environment to the cloud, if you want to leverage the benefit of it, is the fact that the cloud applications have modern best practice embedded within them. Those process flows are within the application already, and we actively encourage our customers to use that best practice in their deployment of cloud applications, with a result of minimizing the amount of customization that there is in the solution, which in turn enables the customer to have a much more simplistic life ahead in terms of the updates that will come through, and also lowering the cost associated with testing, etc., around that environment as well. And what we're finding, and I'll show you some statistics later, is that indeed, as customers really have moved to a world of a much more standardized infrastructure and IT, the need for the customizations and localizations is much more reduced to what it might have been at the time when they invested in the case of Lambeth, for instance, more than 10 years ago. Then, of course, there's a world post the customer going live on the systems, and what we're finding then is that some customers, many of which would be self-sufficient, but many others would require looking for longer-term support services, with those support services either being around perhaps helping us manage the application itself, but more likely about delivering future benefits. One of the key benefits of the Oracle SaaS world is the updates are coming through with ever-enhanced functionality. What organizations sometimes don't have the bandwidth to do is to really understand what that functionality might mean for them as a business and have the support in-house to enable those enhancements to be leveraged as rapidly as possible. And a lot of the post-go-live support services that we provide as Evosys are focused around getting best value out of those future enhancements. Because let's be clear, part of the investment that you make as a customer is in the future. So therefore you want to take advantage of that as it comes through and as it is most meaningful to your business. And finally, as you go through the whole BigWide program, we provide online project tracker so that you as a customer know exactly where you are in that program. Any risks can be identified up front, and of course those subsequent risks can be managed as well. And the sharing of documentation to support the ever really important transitioning services and go live in terms of change management are provisioned through the project tracker and associated services. So cloud migration or transformation, as I've mentioned, some organizations, they're already well established, and what they're looking to achieve out of going to the cloud is perhaps more security, lower cost of ownership, but it's already the systems they currently have are meeting their business need. A very simple and rapid migration in the less than 12 weeks time zone, as identified by KU Children's, is really possible. Others, like Lambeth, want to make significant changes. So 50% of the organizations that we've transitioned through to cloud have taken the opportunity of changing their chart of accounts, usually because their organizational structures or requirements have changed. Many have taken advantage of the collaborative tools and capabilities within the cloud applications, which make it much more of a type of environment that we're all used to working in now in terms of the various media that we use through our phone devices, etc. Certainly, just about all of them achieve a significant reduction in customizations, on average around 70% less than would have been on the on-premise world. Many people have taken great advantage through the adopt methodology, and really that filters right back to the reduction in customizations, but also establishing the new cloud environment as a platform for the future as well, in terms of technologies we spoke about before, like artificial intelligence, etc., IoT. 60% of our clients have taken advantage of the automated extraction and data migration services. So therefore, if you're very happy with your current data, you want to bring that from your live system into your new SaaS system, then the automated processes that we provide as part of BigWide very much support that and maintain the cost, increase the velocity of being able to deliver that. And in 85% of those cases, the data that's been going across is both static data and also active and live data as well. So in essence, the BigWide program can support you as the client's need, as whether they are more migratory or whether they're much more transformational. So let's see if we can use the art of technology just to hear from a customer rather than hearing from me. I hope this works.
KU's been around since 1895. It specialises in early education. It looks after long day care, preschools, after school care. And we partner with the government for about a third of our turnover, whereby we offer inclusion support programs and disability programs and things like that. So it's a community-based organisation, not-for-profit. It's one of the oldest companies in Australia, and it has 2,200 employees. The systems here were very antiquated. They hadn't been upgraded for, in some cases, 25 years. And our whole financial platform was on Oracle on a local server in a room not too far from us here. It was a very expensive system to maintain. So we decided to go to software as a service through the cloud with Oracle Fusion. And that eliminated the risk for us because you had backup and things like that. And it also proved far more cost effective. We decided to migrate in the middle of 2017. The decision was made. We went to the board and got approval for it. It was all done internally with finance and some help with external providers, Evosys in this particular case. And it went very well, I must say. And we achieved year end without any problems. We've been very happy. We had outages before and very inconvenient times, budgets, things like that, halfway through a year end in one particular case. We've had no problems whatsoever. The service has been extremely responsive. Backups aren't an issue. We can sleep at night now. At the time, after we'd hunted around for a provider to help us get through this process, Evosys popped up. They'd done it 48 times before. We'd reference checked them, there were no issues. We were the 49th and it went very smoothly. So it was the experience that we wanted. And we liked the process, the way they did it. Some of it was onshore, some of it was offshore. And they also brought people in when they needed to work with us on the ground here. So they knew what they were talking about. They had financial background. I think one of the guys was a chartered accountant. So when you're doing a financial conversion, that makes life a lot easier. We decided to go with Evosys for the ongoing support after the experience of the implementation. And we've only had to actually call on them a couple of times, and that was for the updates on the system. which are done in background anyway, and they're fairly continuous. Make sure you get a provider or a service partner that knows what they're doing, that's been through this before, they've got the experience, they know the pitfalls, and they can guide you through it. That's what we did. We used Evosys, and it went quite seamlessly.
Okay, so hopefully that reinforced some of the messages I've been discussing, if you like, in theory, and gave you some views from somebody who's delivered it in practice. A couple of points I noted there was that, interestingly, KU Children talking about being the 49th customer in 2017, and already now we're able to talk about more than 60 customers having gone through the BigWide Program. So you can really see the velocity of build-up and change in the market. And we'll be delighted to support customers as they go through that process. So if I talk about now London Borough of Lambeth, so as I said, that's an example of a migration. This is much more of a transformation and a comprehensive business transformation as well. Again, there's a video available for this, and when you have the slides or are able to download the slides, you'll be able to access that through the YouTube reference that I put on the bottom of the page here for you. But I was just going to really pull out some slides that Hammond kindly presented at Open World just a week or so ago. So London Borough of Lambeth are a local authority. They provide services such as schools, such as housing, social housing, looking after the pavements on the street, the roads, clearing the waste, etc. I'm sure you all have organisations that do a similar thing. They're one of the 14 London authorities based around the inner London geography. They've got a population of 320,000 people. In terms of their business drivers for change, they were on an on-premise environment, which was provided by a managed service provider. That had its own inherent costs, whether they would be to do with infrastructure, the applications and supporting infrastructure itself, the cost of people supporting them, certainly a lot of spend around customisations with each of the releases that they were having to manage through. They had significant cost in implementation, and that was ongoing associated with their customisations. And then they were paying an annual cost to Oracle for the support of the on-premise world. So there's a significant cost structure there, which they wanted to avoid or to actually minimise. But there was also a lot of things they wanted to change in terms of delivering business benefit as well. They're under a lot of cost pressure, let's be clear. I mean, the local government in the UK has had an awful lot of its funding reduced from central government, and therefore it's having to turn more and more to its local businesses and its local communities as its source of funding. Those communities clearly don't want to pay more money unless they're provided with better services. So Lambeth have got this kind of double issue where they've got reduced money from the centre, reduced demand from their customers, and needing to support those through many things, including an innovative approach to technology. So they created a Future Lambeth program, which was really about leveraging technology, but also really to support the investment in the skills of the individuals that are going to support their communities, so ultimately adding more value and investment into their customers. It was a major reorganisation and redesign program. This was a true transformation, and it went right down to the point of rationalising their accommodation. They were coming out of a key residential area, so they wanted to repurpose the building that they were currently in to move more into a semi-industrial area, but also to take great advantage of mobile technologies to enable their employees to work more effectively in the community as well. And then the industrial area they wanted to regenerate was about releasing business premises back to the community, because it's that community with successful businesses that pay the revenue back into London Borough of Lambeth. So they wanted to support them in that context. Their focus, they wanted to have a robust design in terms of their management of their organisation through budget forecasting, etc., information, business intelligence. They wanted to be able to see what was coming around the corner in order that they could plan their whole organisation accordingly. And to do that, they needed 100% 360 degree view of their information within their organisation. They certainly wanted to add more value to their employees. They're in inner London. It's difficult to get high-quality people. If you get them, it's tough to maintain, to retain them. Therefore, they wanted to create a working environment that would be increasingly attractive for the very best employees to work within. Clearly, they need to pay their suppliers. The services that they provide are often subcontracted. If they don't manage those effectively and pay those suppliers effectively, then the services that get delivered to their community would very quickly degenerate. They wanted to be able to manage their accounting both on a capital and also on a revenue type basis, and they wanted to devolve responsibility increasingly through to their budget holders. They needed greater integration with their partners, whether those partners be citizens or suppliers. They wanted seamless processes of transactions. They wanted as much automation in the system as possible. They wanted to go fully mobile working. They actually removed the landlines from their offices. Everybody was on a mobile device. All of the applications they deployed needed to be fully mobile enabled because they expected their workers not to be sitting at desks but to either be out in the community or making best use of their time by working remotely. And ultimately, they wanted to reduce the system cost and maintenance and increase security at the same time. To do this, they needed to have a full organizational approach to their project. And this is where the key message is here. We'll talk about this full transformation happening in Lambeth. It happened in under 11 months. Still seems like a long time, but if you think about the journey they went through, a very, very short time compared to what that would have taken in the on-premise world. I think their previous on-premise solution with much less functionality took more than 3 years to roll out. That's great, but it puts demands on an organization, and those demands come very much front and center around having effective change management and also having effective governance and also support at the board level. And the structure that you see on the screen here was really about supporting that. It was about having full executive sponsorship, full knowledge of what the benefits everybody was expecting out of these systems, having the chief executive be front and center in terms of the program, but then having a very, very clear and engaged change management process as a part of driving out the whole glide process. The implementation approach, for the same reason that KU Children selected Evosys, I think a lot of that was very common with Lambeth. In addition, we as an organisation had done a significant amount in the public sector, and that gave the London Borough of Lambeth a great deal of confidence as well. But the other key point was they worked with other systems integrators where it was almost like the project was done to you rather than with you. Going back to this collaborative approach in terms of supporting change, they very much wanted a business partner, not just a systems integrator. And therefore, that's why they selected both Evosys and the Evosys Glide program to support that. Their journey was very much supported by strong preparation on the left, so understanding workshops, show and tell sessions. In terms of their rollout of their users, and there are many hundreds of users, you'll see in a minute, they had no formal training around that. They just did remote drop-in type sessions, walk-in type sessions, where people could get a view of the applications. And then because the applications were so intuitive, it required the very minimum amount of training to enable people to be comfortable in using them. The whole program, as we said, went live in 11 months. I'm pleased to say it was on budget as well as on time. They delivered a comprehensive human capital management solution supporting all the way through recruitment, appraisals and performance management and the recording of time and labour, all on the self-service environment. I think I mentioned before, everything is mobile. They've got a fully mobile workforce. They've transitioned from a fairly static old office into a modern environment where I think less than 50% of the people work there at any one time. The rest are now out in the community. They've gone through their first upgrade, 18B, 18 for the year, B for the second quarter of that year. In parallel, they've updated the way in which they did planning and budgeting within their within their organisation and how they did their management structures. And now we are actively working with them in looking at enabling technologies such as IoT. In the first instance, programs like commercial waste. Why send a waste disposal vehicle to a commercial environment, perhaps where the facilities they had holding the waste don't need emptying? So having sensors in there that identify, is there a need for a pickup against those waste facilities or otherwise, which can be costly both for the authority but also in time and disturbance for the organisation as well, the customer themselves. They went live only in Easter this year, so around March time this year, March, April, with 800 core users. And then very quickly they rolled out to 3,000 further users, as I said, fully mobile, on the 13th of April. It included the financials, procurement, the HR and projects for the financials. And then in May, they went live in the payroll, did their first live standalone payroll run after having some very effective and confidence-building parallel runs. And have subsequently rolled out performance management, absence learning, development and recruitment to give a full human capital management solution. The feedback from their users, and again, these are slides that from the customer themselves, whether the system is very easy to use. They deployed single sign-on at the same time as rolling out the SaaS applications, so that simplified the usage of the system and also the supporting systems that satellite around it and feed into it. They deployed a comprehensive set of management dashboards to improve the management of their organization itself, and they've had great feedback in terms of the accessibility of the solution through mobile devices. Where they're going to now is they're further integrating the functionality of planning and budgeting within their organization and driving it down to the budget holders themselves. The implementation support model is something that we're actively working on them, and this is a support not to support the database, etc., etc. It's about supporting the deployment of future benefits for the enhancements that are going to be delivered to them on a quarterly basis. So it's much more centered on business benefit rather than typical technical system support. And now we're actively working with them, as I said before, about innovative technologies, IoT, machine learning, blockchain, etc. So Evosys Glide then is about releasing the power of the cloud, but basing that upon confidence. Confidence has been done many times before, confidence that we know what we're doing, confidence that we'll do this alongside yourself in a collaborative environment, and confidence in the fact that we will link this back to business value that we will develop with you. Again, there are my name at the bottom, so very pleased to take any queries that you may have afterwards. I would like to thank you for your time in listening to me today.